For over 2 centuries, a profound force shaped the destiny of an entire region. This force was the Tatar Yoke, a period from 1240 to 1480, during which much of what is now Russia fell under the dominion of the Kipchak Khanate, a successor state to the Mongol Empire. To understand the genesis of modern Russia, to comprehend how Moscow ascended to unparalleled prominence, we must delve into this tumultuous era. The term Tatar Yoke itself evokes images of subjugation. The historical record bears witness to immense suffering, following the Western campaigns of Genghis Khan and the subsequent fragmentation of Kievan. Rus, the Kipchak Khanate, also known as the Golden Horde, established its iron grip. Its authority extended across the Rus principalities and parts of Poland. Even the Grand Duchy of Lithuania paid homage to the Kipchak Khans. Initially Mongol-led, the Kipchak Khanate evolved into a Turkic Tatar state. This transformation did not diminish the weight of its rule. The immediate consequences were widespread destruction, brutal massacres, and systematic exploitation. Cities were razed, populations decimated, and resources plundered. The economic and social fabric of the Rus principalities was severely disrupted, leading to decline and fragmentation. The legacy of the Tatar Yoke extends beyond immediate devastation. Historians debate its deeper systemic effects on the Russian state. A prominent school of thought argues that Mongol domination profoundly influenced the development of Russian autocracy and serfdom. The Khans, governing from afar, preferred a centralized system of tribute collection and administration, empowering local princes who proved reliable enforcers. This fostered a top-down, authoritarian model of governance that resonated throughout centuries of Russian history. The constant threat of Mongol raids, coupled with the need to collect tribute, necessitated strong centralized leadership. Princes who successfully navigated these treacherous waters consolidated power, suppressed internal dissent, and exacted heavy demands from their populations. This environment, it is argued, laid groundwork for the later emergence of an absolute monarchy, where the Tsar's power was unquestioned. Simultaneously, the Tatar Yoke inadvertently set the stage for Moscow's remarkable rise. Before the Mongol invasion, Kiev had been the undisputed spiritual and political center of Rus. But with its destruction and the subsequent shift in power, the center of gravity migrated northeastward. Several factors contributed to Moscow's burgeoning influence, turning it from an obscure settlement into the gravitational core of a nascent Russian state. One critical catalyst was the devastating impact of the Black Death. While the plague ravaged Europe, it also significantly weakened the Kipchak Khanate, whose vast territories provided fertile ground for the disease's spread. The ensuing political instability and internecine struggles within the Khanate created a power vacuum, allowing ambitious Rus principalities to assert greater autonomy. Moscow, strategically located at the crossroads of important trade routes and protected by dense forests, proved resilient to both Mongol raids and the plague. Its princes, shrewd and pragmatic, learned to navigate the complex political landscape of Mongol suzerainty. Instead of open defiance, they often cooperated, acting as reliable tax collectors for the Golden Horde. This pragmatic approach earned them favor, granting access to the Khan's authority and enabling them to expand influence over neighboring principalities. Moreover, Moscow's princes displayed acumen for territorial expansion. They did not merely rely on military conquest, but also employed shrewd diplomatic maneuvers, strategic marriages, and astute land acquisition. This expansion was driven by both political ambition and economic imperatives, particularly the demand for valuable furs. The pursuit of these precious commodities pushed Moscow's frontiers eastward, a process that would culminate centuries later, with the Russian Empire reaching the Pacific Ocean. Beyond pragmatic considerations, Moscow also cultivated an image as the spiritual heir to Kievan Rus. The relocation of the Metropolitan of the Russian Orthodox Church to Moscow in the 14th century bestowed immense prestige upon the city, solidifying its claim as the new spiritual heart of the Russian lands. This religious legitimacy proved a powerful unifying force, drawing in other principalities under Moscow's moral and political sway. The culmination of this protracted process arrived in the late 15th century under Ivan III, often known as Ivan the Great. It was Ivan III who, through military prowess and diplomatic skill, definitively ended the Tatar yoke in 1480. His stand on the Ugra River, where opposing Russian and Mongol armies faced each other, without engaging, symbolized the final severing of Mongol dominion. This pivotal moment allowed Ivan III to declare Russia's complete independence and embark on an ambitious program of state building. With the yoke cast off, Ivan III wasted no time in consolidating power and establishing a unified, centralized Russian state with Moscow at its undisputed head. He systematically annexed independent principalities, developed a sophisticated administrative apparatus, and asserted the concept of Moscow as the Third Rome, the true successor to the Roman and Byzantine empires and the last bastion of Orthodox Christianity. This ideological framework provided powerful justification for Moscow's imperial ambitions. However, the historical interpretation of the Tatar yoke is complex. For a long time, the dominant narrative in Russian historiography emphasized the overwhelmingly negative impact of Mongol rule, portraying it as a period of national humiliation, stagnation, and barbaric imposition. This perspective highlighted destruction, tribute, and perceived stunting of Russian development. More recently, Russian historians have re-evaluated the Mongol period. In a more objective light, this re-examination seeks to move beyond simplistic narratives, acknowledging that Mongol rule, while harsh, also contributed to the formation of Russian identity and state. Some scholars argue that Mongol administrative practices, emphasis on strong central authority, and even certain cultural influences were absorbed and adapted by Rus principalities, shaping the unique character of the Russian state. For instance, interaction with a vast multi-ethnic empire may have fostered pragmatism and adaptability in Muscovite leadership. The administrative techniques, including taxation and census-taking employed by the Golden Horde, might have provided a template for later Russian state-building. Furthermore, some argue that isolation from Western Europe during the Mongol period allowed Russia to develop its own distinct cultural and political path. This reevaluation does not diminish the suffering endured during the Tatar yoke, but it presents a more complete and multifaceted picture of its historical legacy. It acknowledges that even periods of foreign domination can have complex and unintended consequences, shaping the future in ways not always apparent. In conclusion, the Tatar yoke was a crucible in which the foundations of modern Russia were forged. It was a period of immense challenge and destruction, but also one that provided the conditions for Moscow's unprecedented rise. The weakening of the Kipchak Khanate, Moscow's strategic location and shrewd leadership, its religious legitimacy, and its relentless pursuit of territorial expansion, all converged to transform a regional principality into the dominant force that would eventually unify the Russian lands. The legacy of this two-century-long domination is a complex tapestry, woven with threads of devastation and resilience, foreign influence and indigenous adaptation. It shaped Russia's political culture, reinforced its autocratic tendencies, and ultimately set the stage for its emergence as a powerful, centralized state. The story of the Tatar yoke is not merely a chapter in Russian history. It is a foundational narrative, essential for understanding how Moscow became and remains the heart of Russia, a testament to enduring strength forged in the fires of adversity.